What would happen if Gwen Stacy was bitten by the spider instead of Peter Parker? Welcome to the Complete Story series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. We then read it dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Remember to support the official releases of these books, guys, and purchase them at your local comic book store. If you joined us on our Spider-Verse adventure, then you learned a little bit about a character simply known as Spider-Gwen. I'll link you both her story and the Spider-Verse video here. But if you aren't interested in those, let's explain a little bit about her. Spider-Gwen is from an alternate universe in which she was bitten by the radioactive spider and Peter Parker was not. She became something special, known as Spider-Woman, and Peter grew jealous of how special she was. So he tried to change himself, and he became known as the villain, Lizard. This eventually led to his death. Spider-Woman and Peter Parker would fight it out, and in the end, he would die. And the police would show up just in time to see a normal-looking Peter Parker and a sad Spider-Woman holding him in her lap. Because of that, she found herself on the run from the police, and the Kingpin wanted her to work for him. This led her to fight against Kingpin's men and rescue her father, Captain Stacy, from his own death. But by rescuing him, she revealed her identity to her father. Shocked by the news that his own daughter was Spider-Woman, she left, telling him that she was needed in this role. Someone was needed to save the day. She then got wrapped up in the Spider-Verse mess, but now she's back home, coping with the events that had unfolded just before she left. While she was gone, Vulture was raging through the town, and the people of New York were questioning where their Spider-Woman had gone, even though no one apparently wanted her around before she left. She's been dodging phone calls from her band, the Mary Janes, also. How can she fix all of this? As she walks through town returning stolen cash registers and pondering the answer to that question, she sees her old band, the Mary Janes, are continuing on without their star drummer. Well, at least they're trying. Their hit single, Face It Tiger, is soaring in the charts, and Mary Jane has too much pride to ask Gwen Stacy back into the band, even though the rest of the band wants her back. What you may have missed in our previous episode is that Gwen effectively quit the band at one of their biggest shows. So after debating if she should talk to her father, go talk to the band, or get the Vulture in custody, Gwen decides that she's gonna fix this whole mess by starting with the Vulture. The town will love her again if she does this, she'll be back in her dad's good graces, and then she can go talk to Mary Jane. So she grabs the Vulture's public address that the police have put out on the internet, and she breaks into his apartment to steal his spray paint and paint messages all over the town. Things like, "Death from a butt," "The Vulture stinks," and "Your nest is a hot mess." Of course, this does get his attention, and he comes screaming in, ready to fight. But her spider sense saves her as she jumps backwards, webbing him up, yelling, "Kiss D's!" Blinded by the webbing over his eyes, he crash lands into a local apartment, and Spider-Woman leaps in behind him. "Oh, you don't want to play anymore, Toomsy? Taking your ball and going home?" The Vulture screams and charges right at her, only for her to dodge again and web him from behind. "Nuh-uh, you old fart, we're just getting started." But finally, the Vulture is getting an upper hand as he pulls Spider-Woman up into the sky with him, and he goes higher and higher. She begins to think to herself, "Oh no, we're too high!" And that's when the Vulture drops her. She begins to plummet back to the earth down below and is knocked unconscious from the fall. A few hours pass and Spider-Woman begins to snap out of it and listens to a song being sung nearby. Spider-Gwen, Spider-Gwen, sleeping on the job again. A faint smell of trash clearly indicates that she's in a trash pile, and as her eyes begin to focus, she can see who was singing. Spider-Ham is standing over her. Wait, Spider-Ham? For those of you who aren't fully aware of the Spider-Man universe, Spider-Ham is another version called Peter Porker, and Spider-Gwen met him when she was on her Spider-Verse adventure. But he can't be her, and he quickly confirms that he is nothing more than a figment of her imagination. Once she realizes that Spider-Ham isn't really there, she leans over the sign to get ready to puke, telling herself, how could she lose to him, to the Vulture? "Ah, stop it," Spider-Ham tells her. "You did fine. Lose a fight with Baron Zero, then we'll have a self-pity talk." That's when she remembers how she saved herself. At the last second, she used her webbing to glide, and she landed face first into the trash. She sits down in shock that she lost to that old geezer. "Yeah, but all things considered, severe head trauma is a low toll to pay. How about we regroup, go home, and..." But Spider-Gwen looks at her imaginary friend. "Home? I can't go home. I can't even work up the nerve to talk to my dad." Oh no. She begins to scramble around the trash, and Spider-Ham asks her, "What are you looking for?" "My phone! I lost my phone!" "Well, the world weeps for your electronics, but you can't just get..." And Spider-Woman grabs Spider-Ham. "My whole life is in that phone! All of my secrets!" Meanwhile, the phone has been found by the police, and Captain Stacy would recognize his daughter's phone anywhere. He works it out and he puts the phone into his daughter's backpack, cursing her for making him take evidence from the crime scene. Apparently, she's so out of whack that Gwen eventually found herself in a random bar in Manhattan and she was picked up by her friends, though she still doesn't know why she's still seeing Spider-Ham. Immediately, MJ and the rest of her bandmates begin to fight about the whole should Gwen be back in the band thing. And Gwen looks over at Spider-Ham. Why did you bring me here? You knew this would happen. Spider-Ham tells her, being a superhero is more than just facing against the bad guys, Wednesday. Sometimes, you gotta face real life. With all of them arguing about whether or not she should be back in the band or not, she looks at Spider-Ham. I'm sorry, I just can't. Not yet. She gets up and she apologizes, telling everyone that she's just gonna go. But MJ stops her. For real? You can't. Look at us. The Mary Janes need you. Meanwhile, Captain Frank Castle is trying to get a lead on who this Spider-Woman is. Because in this world, he's not the Punisher, he's a police detective. While Matt Murdock, not the Daredevil but the Kingpin's lackey in this world, is trying to beat on the Vulture for battling against Spider-Woman. She's the Kingpin's to take care of, and the Vulture has no right to get involved. Spider-Woman suits back up and she hits the streets with her imaginary friend. Maybe she does have brain damage or something. And as they swing around, she tells them that she needs to do this. She'll deal with the Mary Janes after she handles the Vulture. And Spider-Ham tells her, you're doing this for the wrong reasons, Gwen. None of this will change the past. So she decides that she's gonna take the cartoon pig's advice for the first time. And she's gonna swing by to visit her father. She meets him at a bar and they head back to their place so that she can take off the Spider-Woman costume. And the first thing her father says to her is that she can't be Spider-Woman. She just can't do it anymore. But she looks to her dad. I looked into Peter's eyes, Dad. I felt his heart break. Captain Stacy looks at his daughter and sees her in pain. And he tells her, you have to trust me, Gwen. To know, but she cuts him off. To know what's best? I'd give anything to stop lying and stop hiding behind this mask. But then how would I help anyone? Gwen Stacy is the problem, Dad. If you can't forgive yourself for what happened to Peter, Gwen, no one else can. But at that exact moment, Gwen's spider sense begins to blare as the Vulture comes crashing through the window. He throws Captain Stacy back and he fills the room up with his Vulture gas. He then grabs Captain Stacy by the shirt and he holds him up. Come clean! Why did the Kingpin's men save you from me? Who is Spider-Woman to you? Gwen sees her chance and she crawls away to suit up. You're no match for my tiger style, Vulture, she yells out to get his attention. And she begins to beat on him with stuff that she webbed together to make nunchucks. She starts to win this match against him, but he begins to declare the stakes are too high now. The Kingpin wants her dead. And then the gas begins to affect her and she begins to cough madly. The Vulture stands up giving his evil villain montage, only to be shot in the shoulder by Captain Stacy. Clutching his bullet wound, he takes off from the building, leaving Captain Stacy and Gwen alone. She gets up, getting ready to continue her fight with the Vulture, but her father holds her back. No, Gwen, I won't let you go. So, she webs him to the ground and follows, because she has to. She's the only one that can. She finds the Vulture trying to steal a police car with his gases going crazy all over the place. And with her vision blurring, she takes a few more swings and she knocks out the Vulture. She then starts to stumble away as she hears the police sirens approaching. But she can't get away, this gas is making her just so sleepy. And she stumbles into Captain Castle, now wearing a t-shirt with a skull, holding 2 batons and a gas mask. The radio asks if he wants backup and he tells them that he has this. She's his. And he begins to take a swing at her, but now she's getting mad. So she breaks his batons and she flings him onto the hood of a police car. And then she begins to punch him over and over. I'm tired of all of you jackbooted fascists and you loud-mouthed newspaper jerks. But Frank turns on the electrical currents that shot Gwen off of him, throwing her back off to the ground. She lands dazed and Frank walks over, removing her mask. And then he looks in shock. What the frack? How? You're just a... But Gwen finishes his line for him. Just a girl? Yeah, that's right, I'm just a girl. And she punches him into a nearby car so hard that he lands unconscious. She reaches down and she grabs her mask. I've been sloppy and stupid. Dad was right. I can't let the Vulture possibly figure out who I am. No more head games, no more spinning myself in circles. There's no other choice here. Spider-Woman's not a criminal. Meanwhile, Ben Parker, Captain Stacy's next-door neighbor, arrives and he helps him out of the building. Gwen stops a few more crimes the next day, but the Vulture's been captured by the police, and he's been hauled off. She's not quite sure where and how she should go forward, but she knows that she needs to be a superhero. But she eventually decides that she's gonna go check on her father. She's gonna go to the Parkers, a place that she hasn't been since Peter died. It shouldn't be too hard, right? As Gwen arrives at the front door, She debates if she should even knock. But Ben Parker sees her and he invites her in quietly because her father is asleep on the couch and he doesn't want to wake her. He then sits her down at the table where she sees scrapbooks in front of her. They were out because May Parker was cleaning. Talk about a day of coincidences. The Parkers are super excited to see Gwen because they really haven't seen her since Peter died. But Gwen can't even hear their kind words, not with the newspaper clippings in front of her. The one stating, Peter died, and it's all Spider-Woman's fault. She can't take it, it's too much, and she begins to get up and leave, but May Parker asks her to stay. They haven't seen her in months. She looks down. I can't. I shouldn't, May. She thinks to herself, there are just too many reminders in this house. How can she move forward when everywhere she looks around, she's reminded of Peter's death by her hands? But May holds her chin in her hands. We can do this together. It's Peter. That's why you're here, isn't it, dear? I'm having a hard time with Spider-Woman, May says. And Gwen stops. What do you mean? I don't know where to begin. But I knew when she showed up that Peter was in love. He was in love with the idea of her, Gwen, the power of it, the freedom, the fantasy. He was brilliant and he lived in a world all by himself in his head. I don't know if it was the children ridiculing him or beating him. But maybe he just felt trapped with two old farts like Ben and me. Regardless of what his reasoning was, he was trapped, alone in his own world in his head, and he wasn't well. When he died, Jameson threw a microphone in my face and I looked for someone to blame. And I thought, why not Spider-Woman? She fled from the scene, from the police, and she wears a mask. But something felt wrong. Peter and I started cutting clips of Spider-Woman when he was alive, and when he died, I just kept going. But I saw something in all these clippings. I started to see a different picture. I saw her trying to make up for something, to set it right. For Peter, wouldn't that mean she's guilty? Gwen asks her. Maybe, but what would you do if the world judged you like that? Who could you even trust? Maybe she's trapped in her own head too. Maybe it's just easier to be someone that's behind that mask than pretend that she has no choice. Alls I know is that Peter is as much a part of us as we are a part of him. And if we want the love that we have for him to live on, we can't hide either. It's up to us to carry on living. And with those words, Gwen picks herself up and she leaves the house. She decides that May's right. She needs to carry on living. She needs to put her best foot forward, live her life, and stop blaming herself for what happened. So, she goes to the concert that the Mary Janes are going to be playing at that night. She apologizes to them. But they're fine. As much as they need her, they know that she needs them too. And she lives. She lives to the best of her ability, one day at a time. They play Madison Square Garden, opening up for Felicia Hardy and the Black Cats. Spider-Woman gets involved in a battle against ninjas that are after the Black Cats, and then she meets Matt Murdock himself. But nothing else crazy happens. This series is now on hold for the Secret Wars. I think it's a safe assumption that we're going to see more to the Vulture and to Kingpin eventually, but we're going to have to wait for Secret Wars to end and tell you the next story. Thank you for joining us for this video, and I hope it explains a few things for you. And if you enjoyed it, please give this video a like. We'll be doing more of it, like I said, once Secret Wars ends and when she comes back. But until then, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Comicstorian and check out these other videos. You just might like them. I'm Benny for Comicstorian, and I will see you guys next time right here.